Think he can do that, CJ? Hey, spending a Thursday night as opposed to my usual Wednesday night, but I'm really glad to be doing this one tonight for the A game. I'm Rob Akampora from the Shared Universe Studios here along the Jersey Shore. And this is only the second time this has happened where it's like Marlboro, meet Marlboro. Marlboro, meet Marlboro. As a matter of fact, yes, to properly introduce my guest, CJ, I need photo number 1 because this is straight outta Marlboro.
Yes. I need that. I need that.
I'm glad you did. Well, you know where I found that, I think. This lady, after 18 years on CNN as the global affairs correspondent, has decided to take a leap of faith in many labels, and it's doing really well with it. So to give a rundown, currently a columnist for Foreign Policy. You can check out all her work at foreignpolicy.com. Some interesting articles she has written. Also, currently an adjunct professor in American University, the creator of Zivvy Media. We'll talk about that during the next 40 minutes or so. Plus a keynote speaker. I'm going to get into that because I watched one of your videos. I was really impressed with. I got some questions on you. And can be seen sometimes on MSNBC, on the CBS News Net, even on BBC. But above everything else, even with all this, she's proud to be the Jersey girl that she is. Elise Labott, how are you?
I am. You can't take. You can take the girl out of Jersey, but you can't take
Jersey out
of the girl. And I think that's a good thing.
I think it is too. Now,
great to be with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Now, I'm going to get a little embarrassing for a second because to prove your Jerseyness, CJ, I need photo number 3. Because every Jersey girl has had the hair at one point.
Oh yeah, I'm not embarrassed of that at all.
I love it. I love it. Let's see, that's what it was growing up. We all knew growing up in Jersey there was the hair, and that's your mom. Right. I know that. Yeah,
that was at my brother's bar mitzvah.
Oh wow, we're going back to 19. We're going back a ways, to say the least. And growing up in Marlboro, I mean, the funny thing is we actually grew up about 3 blocks apart.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where. I know that we were in the neighborhood, but where did you live?
River, on River Drive.
Oh, a hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah, you were Fairview, right?
That was Fairview Road. And, you know, I went back there. Okay, so we went to our, it was 20 or whatever year it was. Well, we won't get into that.
Right, but it was a reunion of sorts.
Reunion of sorts. And I went back.
Right.
And I went to my house.
Oh, what was that like after all these years to see the house again?
It was interesting. I don't love what they did to the place, but we planted some trees when I was younger. And to see them full grown was like,
wow,
A, crazy, and B, beautiful. And I was just like, kind of stalking around, and the owner of the house came out, and she recognized me from television, and she's like, "Oh my God, Elise Labott!" And she invited me in, and I saw my old bedroom, and that was something. But they were lovely, lovely family.
Nice to hear that. CJ, give me photo number 11 because this will signify just how close we were growing up. Because I was at Mom's house today, so I managed to get this photo earlier tonight.
Oh my God, yes, like a block away, literally a block away.
There it was, yeah. I mean, where River was, it's just for anybody who doesn't know, where I literally was about 5 houses down from that corner, and then Elise is probably about midway up the block. So we literally. Same neighborhood, a lot of the same people. Yeah, we know them on Facebook. They're probably watching right now. Hello, thank you very much. It's still bizarre how it takes social media to kind of reconnect. Because we were just talking about this off the air. It's been 40 years. It's been about 40 years since I think our paths even somewhat crossed.
Since we were little embryos.
Yes. And speaking of little, I got one more photo, and this is where I go. Yeah, your friends did you in on this one. Photo 13, please, CJ. This is the girl I remember. You got it there? You got that? Give me that one because this is the girl I remember.
Oh my God! Oh my God! That's awesome.
There she is.
That is awesome.
That's the girl from the neighborhood. That was like 6th grade, if I remember correctly, somewhere around.
That's amazing. I can't believe you still have these.
This one of your friends did you in on that one. I'll tell you who later.
Wow.
But it's crazy because I look at Marlboro. And this is an interesting rundown for people who don't know. Famous people coming out of town. Jim Nantz from CBS Sports. You got actor Cal Penn, who lived in Marlboro for a while. You had Melissa Rauch from The Big Bang Theory, who's about to come on Night Court later this in 2022. Idina Menzel lived for several years in Marlboro. You had Tony Reale, who hosts on ESPN Around the Horn, Marlboro guy. Howie Roseman, the GM of the Eagles, who won the Super Bowl a few years ago. Another one, you. And then there was my neighbor 2 doors down, who was part of NHRA on Fox, Louis Bloom, the stat boy.
Well, and also I think his name was Howard Rasley, was like the Deputy Secretary of Labor.
Okay, so there's the top 9. I didn't even make the top 10. Congratulations.
Oh, come on. You're in the 10. You're in the 10.
I'm on the 10. I'll take the 10.
No, you're not number 10. You're in the 10.
I'm in the 10. That's all.
10. I don't think we have to number them.
No, absolutely not. I got to go back to CNN before I jump into anything else. Sure. I mean, looking back, I can say when I got into radio, I can remember the first song I ever played, the first interview I ever did. Go back to your beginning. Do you remember that first important interview you did for CNN, and who was it?
Well, I started as a producer when I first moved, but like being around the secretaries of state, like Colin Powell and Condi Rice, like I remember interviewing Colin Powell for the first time. That was incredible. And interviewing Condi Rice for the first time. That was incredible. But every time I get an interview and I meet someone and they're a important newsmaker, it is. I remember the first time I interviewed for CNN as a correspondent, I interviewed the Prime Minister of Turkey, Erdogan, and he had just flown in from Turkey, like literally came from the airport, and there was consecutive translation, so it takes a while. And so while they were translating his answer to me, he fell asleep.
Oh no! I mean, the man had jet lag. You got to, that's part of it, but still, oh my God.
And I remember the first time I was going to go on the air, one of my bosses, who actually was in radio, his name is Steve Reddish. He's at the Voice of America.
Know the name? Yes.
He called me up in the morning and said, "Dress for success! Dress for success!" And I went and I got covered like a Hill hearing on some issue. But those are days that are etched in my mind forever.
Since you brought up Colin Powell, give me photo number 5, CJ. I mean, he did pass away only about a month ago, and and I love this photo. He seems like a very genuine, sweet human being.
He was a wonderful man, not just like a patriot and a general and all of his service to the country, but just a really nice man. And just to show, so when you would have ministers or leaders or whatever come in, they would be escorted in on a red carpet and up to the secretary's suite of offices on the 7th floor. And Colin Powell would go down every time and meet them. And I mean, in other countries they do it, so I don't want to, but in the US it's not done.
No, it's
he would go down and meet everybody. And I'll tell you another Colin Powell story, which is kind of legendary among the State Department press corps. He was known for kind of walking around the building, around the State Department, meeting people, going into the cafeteria, just like meeting people. And one day he was in the elevator with a woman, and she had a donut, and he said, "Oh, that looks good." And she says, "Well, would you like it?" And he says, "I'm not going to take your donut." Oh. He said, "But I'll take a bite." And he took a bite of her donut.
Very, very diplomatic of him.
Yeah, but I mean, he was just a human being. And like a lot of times these top officials are so kind of in their gilded cage, but he was really a man of, the people, and he was really beloved in the building. And, and I've seen him many times over the years, and it was a big loss to those who knew him.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Elise Labott here on the A Game. And you're talking about the human element. When I've watched some of your interviews, I mean, it's comparing apples to oranges. I think my style and your style are very different, but it's also because I get the feeling, and I don't know because I've never been in that world that you're in, that it maybe is a little more buttoned up, that it's a little more like, okay, like anybody else. I do an interview. I'm prepped. I'm prepared. You do. I'm sure you do the same thing. You know where you want to go with this. It doesn't always go there. But at the same token, your style may be a little more, hey, look, I'm gonna go get into this and let's get into the issues and let's, find out what you're thinking, so to speak?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of both styles, I think, because and it's a style, as I'm sure you know, and you've finessed it over the years, that it evolves. But I've kind of always approached it more as a conversation than I used to be. I used to be like Mad Dog Labott. Like, I was very tough. And now I think there's a lot to be said, actually, for having a conversation with someone and pressing them gently. And I remember when I learned this, like, I was very tough for many years. And then I interviewed my very first interview with John Kerry.
Former Secretary
Didn't go
of State,
so
yes.
well.
Ooh.
Didn't go so well because I came in like Mad Dog Labott, and it didn't work very well. But I've found that when I try to get to know the person and interview them more as a person, but also, you know me, like, I call bullshit, like, so I'll be like, really, what I mean? Like, I don't let them get away with everything, but at the same time, like, I think I've learned over the years that it's important to make a connection with the person that you're interviewing, because you're going to get more that way.
No, it's exactly the truth. That's where it stays the same. If you get the connection with the person, sometimes everybody starts to open, everybody breathes, and then it takes a life of its own. It's the best way I can describe it.
It does.
And there's
us right now.
Hey, look, we had a distinct advantage coming into this, which helped. But going from interviewing to doing public speaking, that's a different genre altogether. But
you didn't call me Elise Labott in high school.
Photo number 2, and I caught part of a video, and you're doing this public speaking. Key lessons I learned from world leaders. I saw the video on YouTube.
Oh, God.
Now, here's the thing that really got me interested. You make a great point about the 3 Ps. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes. It's something that sometimes we forget about doing.
I mean, I was just talking to some students from my alma mater, University of Wisconsin, before I came on with you. And I said to them, you have to have empathy for people. And that's different than sympathy. Like, sympathy, feeling bad for someone. But unless you can put someone in someone else's shoes, unless you can put yourself in someone else's shoes, you're really not going to understand them, and you're really not going to kind of connect. Right. And so I'll just tell you a little anecdote. Yeah. I keep this photo. I met the Dali Llama.
As a matter of fact, I've got that photo. I'm going to blow it up right now. Give me photo number 10, because this is a great photo. You and the Dali Llama. This is
this is a great story.
Please.
So, so I don't know why, but the Dali Llama would come to the state. So the Dali Llama would come to the State Department every year to meet the Secretary of State. And I don't know why, but I felt this affinity for him, being the Jew boo that I am. And I would stand outside and wait for him every year to kind of get like a little blessing, right?
Right.
So I did that every year. And so one year it was winter, and I waited outside for a good hour and a half. And the Free Tibet people were like, don't worry, we'll call him over. Blah, blah, blah. And he comes out and he walks out, and the Free Tibet people are like, hello, but they don't call him over, and he's getting in his car. And I'm like, damn, I could be all spiritual about it, but the Dalai Lama is not getting in this car without giving me my blessing. So I scream, Your Holiness! And he like, I don't know if he did a Dalai Lama eye roll or whatever, but he came over, gave me my blessing.
Right.
And then there was this U.S. official who was the envoy to Tibet. Her name was Paula Dobriansky. And she saw it, and she kind of dined out at dinner parties for years on this story about me screaming Your Holiness, because it's not super spiritual. Right. But finally, every dinner party that she was asked to go, that we were at, and she was asked to make remarks, she'd always kind of remind everybody about this story. So one year I went to her and I said, and she did it, and afterwards I said, Paula, the story's getting a little old. Maybe you want to. And she, when the Dalai Lama came into town, she had an audience with him, and she invited me, which was so kind and generous.
Yeah, very.
And so we went to the Dalai Lama. Usually when it's like the Pope, you get a minute, maybe. Yeah. But we had 20 minutes with him. So we're sitting with him, and he was talking about he had just come from his meeting with President Obama, and he said something about that he was talking to President Obama about how he tries to understand the Chinese. And
Right.
President Obama said, how do you do that? How do you put yourself in the Chinese shoes? And he said, you're never gonna be able, the Dalai Lama said, you're never going to be able to understand your adversary and change their mind or win if you don't put yourself in their shoes. And then he took this picture, and he puts the anyway, you showed the picture.
Yeah.
He puts the prayer shawl around you.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, put one more time, photo number 10, CJ, so everybody can get an idea. So
And
here's the prayer shawl, right?
He put this prayer shawl around me, which he does for everybody,
Right.
and I burst out crying like a baby.
It's an incredible,
such an emotional moment. That was like one of the highlights of my career, really, and one of
I
the
was
most
just about to ask you that.
emotional moments I ever had of my life. Like I burst into tears.
Again, I mean, you got incredible stories, and that just may have been the height of all of them. And there's still others I could touch.
I keep it on my phone to try and remind myself to be zen, but
it doesn't always work, but it helps. Absolutely, I think it's great.
Yeah.
The other things about the 3 Ps that really play to my life, it's interesting, playing the long game, because sometimes in my business in radio, we're not the most patient people. Sometimes we're jumping from job to job, and we're not focusing in on the fact that, hey, you know what? You could be out of work for a while, but if you stay patient and believe in yourself, something will happen. And that's the thing about that long game. The patience part of it, we're not always the best at it, but I try to be,
Yeah, and I mean, look, playing the long game means like maybe not, taking something that you think might give you a lot of exposure or a lot of money or something. If it doesn't feel right, you have to think like you're going to be in this business for a really long time, whatever business you're going to be in, and you want staying power. And that's, I think playing the long game is also just being true to yourself and knowing that you'll be okay in the end. If you think of the big picture.
Right.
It's hard to do, and I can't say I do it all the time, but
the third one really applies to how I got into podcasting to begin with, which is parlaying a crisis into an opportunity. I'm in between jobs. Literally, the guys here said, you would be great doing a podcast, and I'm being reluctant. Then I finally started doing it, and it's like, 65 episodes later, here we are, still standing and still advancing. So, sometimes you do face that crisis. And I would gather, from maybe leaving your comfort zone at CNN to dive into the projects you're doing now, and you're like busier than ever now with everything you got going on. I mean, do you look at it and say, hey, look, I love a challenge. I'm going to dive in this full on and not worry about that it's a crisis. It's like only good can happen if I just go for it.
I can't say it happened like that. I mean, I was, I just knew in kind of 2018, like given the media environment that we were in, and given, that the media was changing.
Yes.
And the focus on maybe like personalities over policy or personalities over issues was changing. And I wasn't really happy. And it wasn't the kind of job that it wasn't the CNN of my youth. Let's put it that way.
No, that's a good way of putting it. Sure.
And I didn't realize. So when I left, it wasn't easy, and it was a crisis for a long time. Like I took a nap every day for like 2 years. I mean, wow. But COVID was the crisis. I think that was a crisis, but COVID was the opportunity almost, because I realized during COVID what I really wanted to be doing. And, that's really when it kind of all started happening, when I had that quiet time for myself to figure out, home alone, what I wanted to be doing.
Talk about Zivvy Media, because that's what's come out of this. And it's sort of a platform where maybe people can really talk. And I think that's something that we're losing out on at this point. I'm somebody who would love to be like, I want to talk about these things, but on certain platforms, you're not going to get your point across. So maybe going to another place.
Well, but also, okay, so this is why I say it was a crisis and an opportunity. So I thought like during COVID, like I was on these Zoom, like, you'd get together with a bunch of people and have like an intellectual masturbation group.
I love how you just put that. That was beautiful.
I mean, how can we aid in COVID recovery and blah, 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 beard scratching. And I was saying, I was, with a bunch of different people from different sectors.
Mhm.
And I said, well, what you really need is a media conversation about like the future, about the post-COVID era and how we, reimagine the world we're going to live in, and whether it's work or tech or health or climate or, all of it, education. And then I realized that young people are really not involved in the conversation, and they're the future. And everyone says that they're so socially active and they're so socially conscious, but I think it's more clicktivism, because they're only like getting stories on their social media feeds and then resharing them, but no one's drawing them into a conversation on the issues. And when you look at the polarization that we have today, nobody wants to talk to people from different perspectives, right? It's me versus you. It's not us versus the problem.
And that's where I want to be. I want to be us versus the problem. Exactly.
And so I thought, like, let's start with a media platform that informs, engages in a conversation, and then empowers to kind of do whatever you want to do. You want to sound smart at your dinner party? Go. You want to donate, volunteer, vote, start a company, activism, whatever. But at least you'll have that grounding, and you'll be able to talk to people from different perspectives. And the word Zivvy is a German word. Like, it comes from the word Zivvy, courage, which means moral courage. And I think our tagline is curiosity takes courage, because I do think it takes courage to talk with someone that you may totally not agree with, and realize that you can connect and find common ground. And you may not agree, but that's scary. And I think a lot of people just don't, have that courage right now. And
it's definitely more scary now than it's ever been. It really is.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a lot of plans to grow, and you can follow us at Zivvy Media on all the social channels. We're primarily on Instagram, but also Facebook, Twitter, and the others. But what I really want to do is, I don't know if we've lost generations to this polarization, but I think young people need to be involved in the conversation shaping their future, because they're going to be running it. And so I think it needs to be intergenerational. They need to be talking with older people who are more experienced, who have lessons learned, and we can learn from them and they can learn from us. We're not the young people anymore, Rob.
Yes, I know. We cross 50 and it's like, help! Like, as soon as I saw the AARP card, I went, oh God.
Hey, let's talk about the AARP card.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a friend, she's close to 70 now, but she was staying with me for a little bit, and she says, you should join AARP. And I was like, yeah, thank you, next, thank you, goodbye.
Goodbye.
And she said, you get a lot of benefits for that. You pay $10 a year and you get a lot of benefits.
That's true.
And I looked on the website, and she's like, damn it, she's right. AARP is really good about, they are reaching to a younger audience. And if you get their magazine, you see like, Salma Hayek and Penelope Cruz, and I'm like, I can hang in that cohort.
Oh, yes, you can.
And I mean, look, they have insurance, they have, discounts on a lot of things. And like, I like to make fun of myself and say, all right, whatever. But like, I wouldn't say I'm a proud member, but I'm enjoying the membership.
There's a turn I didn't think we'd go down, but I love it. Elise Labott is here on the A Game. Okay, we're up to the point where I do random shots. Okay. And these are questions that can come from anywhere. And I always try to take a random shot. So thank you, Dad's hat.
Okay. I wouldn't know, or I would have taken a shot.
I should have given you a heads up. All right, now that I've cleared my sinuses.
Next one.
All right, next one. To start this off, CJ, give me photo number 6. This is you and a guy that I for. Guillermo Diaz is one of the more underrated actors out there. I remember seeing him. Saw him on Weeds. First time I saw him. He was brilliant. I'm watching him now on Law and Order with Chris Maloney back with his organized crime thing. It's fantastic. But it made me think about this question. Have you ever had somebody from the Hollywood world come up to you, recognize you, and pay you a nice compliment?
Okay, that dinner was the White House Correspondents Association dinner.
Okay.
Okay, so that's where I met Huck, and he's in a show now. I forgot which.
He's in Law and Order: Organized Crime with Chris.
Law and Order, Law and Order, Organized Crime. Yeah, and so I also saw Will Smith and Jada Pinkett at the dinner.
Okay.
And I walked up to them and they said, "I know you. You're that girl that said shit on CNN."
Now, I'm gonna say full disclosure. I have the video.
Allowed to say it on, are we not allowed to
No,
say
we're
it?
allowed to say it, but full disclosure, I have the video. I was gonna ask you, do you mind if I play that so people can understand?
Shit happens.
All right, exactly. But I love how you handle this, and we'll talk about that in a second. CJ, scroll down the other way. Go down. You will see the video right about there. It says CNN and Elise Labott. Let it rip.
So certainly right now the U.S. is not just talking about what it can do, but it's talking to countries in the region, how they can help support anything that the U.S. would do, because they'll need overflight rights, they'll need airspace, that type of stuff. And they'll also need...
You never broke stride. That's what I love. You just like, all right, it happened. I'm going to keep going. That's a pro. That's a total.
Well, and you know what? I mean, like it wasn't like a second after, but all of a sudden it was all over the internet. And yeah. I mean, come on. Like, I mean, it was like a meme forever. And, you know, they didn't, thankfully I was on CNN International when I said Palestinian erections.
Yeah. But here's the thing I found on YouTube, and I thought this was the best comment. It came from somebody. It says, "That was awesome. Shows that she is human, but she rolled with it." And that's
yeah. And actually, that's what Will and Jada Pinkett Smith, they were, and then I took a picture of them on that same night. Yeah.
That's great. See, of all the things to be remembered for, I mean, I've interviewed Secretary of State. I've been to 80 different countries. I remember dropping shit on a national telecast.
Well, you know, I'll tell you another thing that I'm known for is I'm sure you read about this when you were doing your research.
Mm-hmm. If you were talking about the Twitter, are we going to go? Okay, go ahead.
Go very there.
Yeah. See, but so, again, it was what, 6 years ago at this point.
It was 6 years ago, and Congress had just banned all Syrian refugees from coming to the country, and this is when Trump kind of just started.
Right.
And I tweeted something like snarky, like, "Oh, the Statue of Liberty is crying or bowing her head," or something like that. And some idiot from the Washington Post kind of is like, "Oh, Elise Labott is editorializing." And at the time, you know, I mean, that was like the very start of where they were really encouraging journalists to get on social media and use their voice. And we were having those, our management was also kind of encouraging us, but they did make an example of me. And they, you know, I think kind of to placate some of the extreme people on the right. I don't really think there was a major outcry about what I said.
No, because
and I didn't think, and honestly, I really didn't do it in a partisan way. I thought it was un-American, and I thought if I'm gonna, you know, if something's gonna happen, to me that's a pretty good hill to die on, defending poor Syrian refugees. And I did get suspended for a couple weeks. Went to Puerto Rico, had a couple of pina coladas.
Nice.
And yeah, but I think that was for me like a turning point, in, you know,
in the whole world that you were in.
Yeah.
And if I may interject, the hypocrisy that I see in this now 5 years later, where I sit here and go, that is freaking lame in comparison to some of the shit.
I mean, I've been thinking a lot about it, and I know I have to say I want to raise my voice about it at some point, and I don't know how I want to do that, but I think journalists today like have really crossed the line between you know, opinion, and I'm a columnist now, so I'm an opinion writer. Right. And I do I'm not a partisan writer. I have a voice, I have an argument, and it's a little bit scarier than kind of just saying, "Oh, I spoke to this official." I'm putting my ideas and my arguments out there.
Right.
So I can say whatever the hell I want, and my management will stand by me because that's my job. But like journalists nowadays have, you know, they just feel like people want to know their opinion. I mean, everyone's got it. Every journalist, every reporter, every anchor not only has an opinion, but is almost kind of, not almost, like really going into advocacy and activism. And that's leading to a lot of lack of trust and credibility in the media today. And look, I'm not saying there are some things like you can't I don't think there are two sides to some issues. Like there's no two sides to genocide. There's no two sides to climate science, in my opinion.
Right.
There's no two sides to a lot of things, but to, be bashing and taking down people on television, even if I agree with them,
Right.
personally, I don't agree with their right to say that as a journalist. It's journalism is just that. You journal what's going on and you leave the punditry and you leave the opinions to the columnists or the opinion writers or whatever, or get out of the field.
Right.
But the crossing of the lines is really heartbreaking to me.
The lines are blurred. No other way to describe it. The lines have become so blurred that, and if I may interject, as far as TV is concerned, in my opinion, I get the feeling that they're almost encouraging this a little bit because it's like, hey, look, the more we do this, the more people are going to watch, the more ratings we're going to get.
Well, and also what they're doing is they're speaking to a specific audience and confirming their bias, right?
Yeah.
So when you say something like that, you're confirming their bias. And when people when people will get mad at you for, something else, I'm not going to confirm your bias. I have an opinion. I'll leave my opinion at home.
Yeah.
But like the confirming the bias confirming is troubling. Yeah. And alienating a whole section of the population, whether it's, Fox alienating, the left, or MSNBC, and increasingly CNN alienating the right. Like, and again, a lot of times I don't disagree with what they're saying,
but it's how they're saying it.
It's how they're saying it. Yeah. And it's fueling a lot of the hatred that we're seeing today.
Very well said. Elise Labott here on the A Game doing random shots. Okay. You've had a lot of like incredible long names you've had to try to pronounce on television. Or what's the hardest one you ever had to kind of grasp and say, oh my God, I got to pronounce this correctly? As she ponders that one.
Maybe the Prime Minister of Turkey was hard, Tayyip. Or there are so many, and I don't always get it right. And I do some things for the Washington Post, like some sponsored segments for them, and like that's the worst. Like I have to get those names right.
And if you don't, you're like,
CNN, forget CBS, like forget about it. But like when there's a sponsor involved, you really want to get it right.
Absolutely.
But like no, I there are a lot of, especially like in Asia, where Asia and Afghanistan and Pakistan, the names are complicated.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and I don't envy that. It's like, because you're as a pro, you're going to sit there and say, I'm going to pronounce this correctly. I'm going to get this right.
And then like you're thinking in your head, and then you're like Rob Akpador.
Yeah, like you overthink it. Exactly. Yeah. It does happen. Oh, believe me, my name has been butchered 17 different ways. It's crazy.
I've had a lot.
Oh, I'm sure you get Labott. I'm sure you got that at one point in your career, as opposed to Labott.
Actually, we got it earlier in this show by you.
Oh, way to go, idiot. Thank you very much. Elise Labott on the A Game. Okay, you're in D.C. I know from going to school at Catholic University down there, I couldn't find a good pizza place. If it could, is there any good pizza in D.C.? Please tell me.
Okay, so there's the pizza we grew up with, right?
Right.
Romeo's.
We had Romeo's and Marlboro pizza. There was always a debate.
Which do you think was better?
I was a Marlboro pizza guy, but I respect the Romeo's. I know.
Okay, but
that
kind of pizza is few and far between now. Like the New York kind of pizza, everything is like the fancy, hand toss, like everything, which I do love. And they do have some nice places that have that here. But I finally found a New York pizza place called it's called Andy's Pizza.
Okay.
And it's in all these little markets called Streets Markets. And he actually won like this contest of the world's best pizza.
Nice. I like this.
Yeah. So Andy's Pizza. Yeah.
I'm going to give you at least a little bit of bad news because I took this photo tonight. Give me photo number 12. Now, when you look at this will kill you. That is now Romeo's on Route 79.
Does that say Big Boy's Pizza?
Yeah, Romeo's went under during the pandemic, unfortunately, on that location.
Well, you know what? I'm okay. It's the end of an era, but
yeah,
when Benny left, Benny was the guy
I will agree with,
it wasn't the same because I went back, that whole thing when I said I went back to
Marlboro, sure.
Marlboro, whatever. I did go back with Lori Heiss, my very good friend. And it wasn't the same. And because of the new owners. What about Marlboro Pizza? Is Marlboro Pizza still
Marlboro's still going? Unfortunately, their main guy, Pasquale, just passed away within the last month or two.
It's not the same. Unless they're keeping everything the same, it's not the same.
Not the same. And it's funny because I've gone to both bagel shops in town, Bagel World and Bagel Talk, and that was also a debate in Marlboro.
I don't remember either one of those. I was like more of a,
you were a pizza junkie. You weren't worried.
No, I had like Jerry and Harvey's. We get our bagels.
Oh, okay. There you go. But I mean, even I recently went into Bagel talking about what happened. What this is not the same. What's going on here? Come on, you're killing me.
It's hard to get a good bagel here.
I would imagine. Please, I'm sure.
Because the bagels are all about the water, and it was a New York bagel.
Yes, you're not going to touch a New York, New Jersey bagel. Sorry,
Bialy. They don't have that many Bialys here.
I was about to say they probably look at you and go, "What is? What do you that you're saying?"
Bialy girl. They don't have. They have one place that has them.
I can. That's the thing. Growing up, my first bagel was Eli's in Matawan. See, you're smiling, so you kind of remember. You kind of remember that. The things that come back to your memories. Okay, thank you for the trip down Amnesia Avenue. Okay, a couple more random shots. As you mentioned, University of Wisconsin. You were a grad there. Go Badgers! Please win the Big Ten title, and let's have some chaos for football. That would be wonderful. But since that is beer country, what was the best beer up there while you were in Wisconsin? Because you probably had all kinds of different.
They had. We were young and poor at that time.
As long as you're not drinking Milwaukee's Best, you're fine.
The best thing was we had like a lot of breweries there. And so
exactly.
We had like the Brat House or whatever. Like we didn't drink, or there was a keg or something. I don't think I drank beer out of a can or a bottle at that point.
I'm not touching that one. Not even going there. But I'm impressed. The crazy days of college. All right. I got to do one more serious one on random shots just to wrap it up. I know you got a lot of things going on, but it made me think about you were beginning at CNN around 2000. 2001 was 9/11. What comes to mind during that time with 9/11 and how you were handling stuff at CNN at that point?
I mean, that was really, we were taking it from incoming, like just all the time. I remember the day I was a little late to the State Department, and when I didn't realize, I didn't realize at first it was a terrorist attack. I was like, and I thought, oh, a plane went into the World Trade Center. Oh, well, that has nothing to do with me. Like, I'm at the State Department. Like, that's an aviation problem. And then after the second one, we realized that what was going on. And I'm walking into the State Department and everyone's coming out.
Oh, geez.
They were evacuating. But I ran in and kind of did a little bit of work and then left. And they kept blocking off the street. So I kept having to like when the police cordon off and then they keep cordoning off and you have to keep walking. So that was like a day. But I mean, those weeks were, 24/7. They were emotional. Like I remember one time the spokesman came down and said something and I said, well, isn't he going to come down? Colin Powell going to come down and talk to, the media? And he's like, no. And I got really like upset. I was like, he has to talk to us. I was like emotional, but it was the emotion of it all. And I just remember that time being really hard work. I gave up a lot. Like a lot of my friends got married during that period. And a lot of bachelor parties and a lot of bachelorette parties and a lot of showers and stuff like that. But like, we're still, the remnants of that we're still feeling. And so, and we always say like times like that, or the Arab Spring, or, these conflicts are like good for business. But it, people are involved and lives are involved and families are involved. And so, you always have to keep that in mind.
Always. Well said. And I leave you with this one last question. As somebody who does interviews and now you're being interviewed, what are you more comfortable, being the interviewer or the interviewee?
I don't mind either one. I like them both. I mean, I it depends what the questions are. Your questions are lovely, Rob, and it's fun to take a stroll down memory lane.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would like to sit and be interviewed by myself, put it that way.
Wow. And you know what? And the funny thing is, I looked on your website, I'm watching your interview with Andrew Yang, and I'm like, going, this is, and again, Andrew seems like a really, loose kind
that
of.
was an enjoyable interview. There are
Yes,
some interviews are not so enjoyable, you know?
Oh, believe me, I've got a few that in my head and going, how did I survive that interview and why did that happen? You look back on it and go, oh God. And you just cringe and go, what did I learn from it? That's the best thing. I kind of look back on the bad ones and go, did I learn something?
I mean, look, I've come a long way since Marlboro, New Jersey, but I still do hold on to my Jersey roots, and like being from Marlboro and being from Jersey is a very important part of who I am. And so it's great to connect with you and take a stroll down memory lane.
I'm glad you had fun.
We have to get together and go to Marlboro Pizza.
That will be done next time you're in town for sure. And I thank you for giving me the time. I know you're very busy.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm running down real quick. Foreignpolicy.com for her columns. Some really good stuff there. Follow Zivvy Media on all the platforms that you get a chance at. And if she's keynote speaking, we'll let you know about it. If she's around the area, we'll let you know about it.
Or if you need a keynote speaker.
What was that now?
Or if you need a keynote speaker.
Even better. See, that's right. If you know somebody that's at a corporate function, you're looking for somebody, look up Elise, find her website. All her information's right there. My dear, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
I appreciate that. Have a great holiday season, by the way.
You too.
And that's a wrap for me. We'll be back again probably just after Thanksgiving. So enjoy your holidays, and we'll have a few more good sessions coming up here on the A Game. Until then, take care of yourself.